back to Hilltop Farm and welcome to another episode of Across the Duck Pond. Okay, there is very interesting things happening across the duck pond at Hilltop Farm, I can tell you. Those of you that don't know, we have Indian runner ducks. Now, Indian runner ducks are notorious for not being good parents. They don't incubate their eggs very well as a rule, and they certainly don't make very good parents as a rule. Most of the time they will lay eggs and just get bored partway through and leave them. They will occasionally hatch them and then abandon their babies literally on the first day, but they can abandon their babies anytime. I've heard stories of parents, not just the drake, but the duck too, actually attacking the babies and killing them. But, moral of the story is, most Indian runners will not sit on their eggs and hatch them, and if they do, they're not terribly successful at it. So, at the beginning of spring, when Josephine is one of our Indian runners, when she started laying eggs after the winter, normally they lay them in the bottom of the duck house and they're locked in there overnight, and they usually have laid their egg by the time we let them out in the morning. But Josephine, occasionally there'd be no egg from her, and which is not unusual. They don't necessarily lay every day. But then we noticed that there were 2 or 3 eggs under a bush, and she'd made a bit of a hollow out and made a nest. And we thought, oh, you know, no, you're not going to do that. So we just took the eggs away, and she'd go back to laying them in the duck house. And then she found she stopped laying again, and then we suddenly realised, hang on, there's 4 eggs under, you know, around the back of the lime tree over there, and so we took them away, got rid of the nest. This happened 3 or 4 times. I mean, she even made a nest. I think she gave up and started making a nest in the duck house itself. But of course, we just kept taking the eggs away. And and then she stopped laying again, and we kept our eye out and couldn't see any anywhere, and thought, well, maybe she's just, you know, stopped laying for whatever reason. And then my daughter came in one morning and said, I think Josephine's sitting on a nest. I said, where? And down in our kitchen garden, you follow the pathway to the end, it turns and the pathway continues on to the duck house and the chicken house. And just along there we've got a hedge that's it's a raspberry hedge. And at the end of that is an apricot tree with a raised garden bed next to the apricot tree. And there's a hollow behind the apricot tree. Now the stupid part about it is, it's in clear view. You can see this hollow quite plainly. But that's where she was. In this hollow. And we thought, well, that's a bit strange. She's, you know, we haven't noticed any eggs in there. Maybe she's just starting to lay. Anyway, we sort of said, oh, well, you know, keep your eye out for when she's not on the nest. And sure enough, later on that morning, she's in a paddling pool with her mate. And I thought, oh, she must have just been laying an egg or something. But when Helen checked, she came in and she said, there's actually 9 eggs in there, and she's got it covered up with straw. and they're warm. I said, oh. So we went to go and have a look. This is sort of 5 to 10 minutes later. We went to go and have a look, and Josephine was back sitting on them again. So we thought, oh, okay, well, you know, she's been determined since the beginning of spring. We'll just leave her, see what she does, you know. Well, so we lose 9 eggs. And I sort of said to everyone, you know, keep your eyes peeled. Every time you go down there, check on her. And the first time we see her off the eggs and we feel the eggs and they're not warm, we'll get them into an incubator quick and see if we can save them. And of course we made a note when my daughter first noticed her sitting on these eggs. But I did notice that although she was on them a lot, she was off them a lot too, you know what I mean? She still made time to go for 10 minutes swim in the pond a couple of times a day, and she'd wander around and eat, and I mean, I wasn't watching her all the time, but there were occasions where I thought, I think, you know, you are on them a lot, but I think she seemed to leave them for long periods of time, longer than I would have expected her to, and more often than I expected her to. I thought she'd leave for like 5 minutes once a day or something, but she was often off them. So anyway, it takes 28 days to incubate duck eggs. So from the time we first noticed her sitting, we counted 28 days, and we sort of thought, well, if she's still sitting after that, chances are nothing's going to happen. So we get to the 28 days, no sign of anything, and I said to the rest of the family, if you see her off the nest, go over and have a look, see if there's any signs of pipping or cracked eggs or anything, because I know when we incubate them, duck eggs can pip well over, you know, like sometimes a day and a half to 2 days before they actually hatch. It's much longer than with chickens. And my daughter had the opportunity to look twice, and said to me, no, I can't see anything. So anyway, that was fine. I said, well, we'll give her a few more days just to make sure. Well, the next day, she came out and she said, I think something's hatched. So I think I see something moving under her wing. And sure enough, this little yellow head popped out. Well, as the morning progressed, there seemed to be more and more. And because I initially thought, well, even if she only has 2 or 3, that would be good, you know, her efforts will be rewarded. Well, in the end, she came in, my daughter came in, she said, I swear I've counted 10. I said, you can't have counted 10, there's only 9 eggs there. She said, I reckon there are 10. And so Helen went out and she came back and she said, no, she's right, there's 10 there. So all we could think of was that she'd had twins, and as most of you know, twins, which is in effect a double yolker, they very rarely hatch and survive in the egg, because it's virtually impossible for them to hatch. So it's pretty unusual. But I thought, well, stranger things have happened. Anyway, next morning we go out there, and because although they were hatching, she didn't leave the nest that day. She stayed on the nest, stayed with them. That was fine. A couple of days prior to this, we had emptied one of our raised beds that we had potatoes in to harvest the potatoes. So the soil and compost and everything was mounded up, sort of, you know, in a heap next to the garden bed. And next day we went out there, And sure enough, there's Josephine proudly standing atop of this pile of soil with her 12 babies. And I thought, she can't possibly have had 3 sets of twins and have them all hatch. And when we checked the nest, which of course she'd now left, there was one unhatched egg in there. So all we can think of, because I don't believe she had all those twins, all I can think of, because there were 3 occasions, 3 different people counted those eggs, each time it was 9. All I can think of was she had, because she obviously ended up with 13 eggs, there were 4 on the bottom, and then, you know, sort of 4 down here, and then 9 on top. And she somehow rotated and turned them, not just where they were, but, you know, some went down and some came up, and it's all I can think of. I cannot offer any other explanation other than on 3 separate occasions, 3 different people counted those eggs, and on the top there was 9 each time. It absolutely bizarre. But if you want to die from the cuteness factor, watch this next video. Now at the beginning they were, I think, a day old. In fact the still photos right at the very beginning, that was Josephine on the nest, and then on that first day where they were hatching, and then the actual movie parts were, first one was day old, last one was done today, and that's week old. So you can see sort of how much they've grown. But she's looking after them beautifully. Manny, her partner, is looking after them beautifully. She's still got 12. She defends them. I wouldn't say she's aggressive, but if we go near her or try to pick them up, she certainly hisses and spits and lunges at you. But you can walk in and out of the pen. First day she was a bit more cautious, but now you can walk in and out of the pen, and as long as you don't go over to her or them, she just pretty much keeps a close eye on you and all that. But she's absolutely brilliant. So those people who say Indian runners can't and don't do that, we have the exception, because she not only can but has and is doing so. So I will keep you up to date on them growing up. So that's all we have from the duck pond this week. Thank you for joining me, and I'll give you regular updates so that you can see how those clutch of ducklings are going and how they colour up and shape up. And in the meantime, it's goodbye from Hilltop Farm. See ya!